Since I don't have my lights and my junction box yet, we're going to move on to what I'd like to do next, which is mount a fifth wheel to this truck. I want to mount a traditional semi-style fifth wheel so that I can haul a step deck trailer, van trailer, lowboy, whatever. And I also want to find one that we can actually slide forward. So if I need to move it forward, like in the case of pulling a trailer, I probably don't. If it's real heavy or it's set up for tandem, I could move it forward. If I needed to, move it back to clear my lights, whatever the case. And if I build myself a fifth wheel tow unit, I want to be able to slide that fifth wheel forward so I can transfer some weight farther forward on the steer axle for towing. So it would be great if I could find, or if I have one off a Freightliner, because that's what this is, and that cross member right there, those bolt holes line up with the angle iron that comes off of a Freightliner, and I just have to continue down through this way with the rest of them. So let's go see what we can find, and whatever it is, I'm sure I'm going to have to take it apart and pressure wash it and clean it and all that kind of stuff, because, you know, it's been sitting outside or on a truck or whatever. But let's go see what we can find. I have one here, and it has a lot of travel, which would be really, really nice. But I really don't need that much, and I'd hate to take it off this chassis. This is a double framed International that I may just end up building this truck back. It rolled over, the cab got crushed, but I have another cab, and I'm thinking I might just put a cab on this and put a transmission back in it, because it has an ISX Cummins in it that the International dealer literally did the head, all the injectors, the turbo, and an in-frame less than 2,000 miles before it was actually rolled over. So I might put this truck back together, so let's keep looking. I have this one here, but it's a fixed, and I don't want to have to unbolt it to move it forward and back. It's a nice shape though, it's not got a lot of use on it. Came off a fairly low mileage truck. This will work. This one here, I think I took that off a Freightliner. And I think I have the angle brackets too. So maybe we'll use this one. Let's get it out. We'll get it pulled out of here and get a look at the pins, see what kind of condition they're in. And it's not too greasy. What grease is there is dried up. It should clean up pretty good. It's not too rusty. A little bit of crap right there, but we'll see what it turns into.
So we decided to take the pins out and separate it so we can get to all the parts of it to clean it and paint it. I think that'll be easier.
Yeah, then we can check condition too, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Check everything out a little bit nicer. I'm just gonna have you hold tension on this and we'll rip this go off. Maybe. I guess I'll have you hold it over here. One over there, one over here. It's just gonna slide. It'll be right in the
Okay. Well, here, take your flannel.
Yeah, it's like 50-some degrees today.
It's chilly this morning.
I guess this is the beginning of the end, huh?
Yep, it is. We got one night coming up. 30 some degree, 39 or something, so.
Guess that'll work just fine.
Yeah.
Now we can get all this cleaned up.
Okay.
See how much grease buildup there is. But I'm gonna pressure wash this, and it's better to get all this grease picked up while it's dry versus spreading all over the gravel. And then,
otherwise you'll be wearing it.
Yeah, I'll be wearing it, and I'll be tracking it to the house and everything. You can see there's some wear on some stuff. Not horrible, like that one rod right there for the sleeve. Like, you put air to this cylinder and it pushes this way. When it does, it pulls this pin out and the one on the other side, and then lets you slide, and you let the air out of it, out of that cylinder, and the spring will pull them back, and then it locks it in place. I'll get this flipped over. You can see the mouth of it doesn't have a tremendous amount of wear. We need to look at the jaws down in here and see what they look like too. So I have a kingpin on a piece of unistrut that I can slide in there to check it and see how tight it is. What do you think it weighs? 5 pounds?
10 probably. On a bag, sure.
Maybe you're 10 pounds. 5 pounds for me, maybe.
Whatever, it's heavy.
Yeah. All right.
Grease.
Yep. So we're wiping them down with acetone now, and when I say we, I mean you. Had some burrs here where they've gouged into. I just took a flat disc. Just flatten them out, just so it's not as bad. Again, for what we're doing, this will be just fine. Not a big deal at all. A lot more primer on the floor than it looks in the camera, but that's okay. We got enough on here, but I believe it's going to be tomorrow before I can actually get paint on here. I slid them in, the locks. I had it in the middle, or up forward, and I did the back part, and then I slid it back. It's going to get screwed up, but at least there's some paint somewhere on it, at least an attempt, I guess. Fifth wheel came out okay looking for, you know, a beat up old scratched fifth wheel, I guess. And our rails, they're very pitted, but not to where I'm concerned about it, so they'll be all right. Since we're waiting on the fifth wheel parts and the primer to dry, I can't paint it today. We're gonna go ahead and start on the tires. This tire is good. That wheel just needs cleaned up and painted, or, you know, something. I got other wheels I could use, and then this tire here is pretty much done for. It's like not enough there really to even be a steer tire. It's well within date. It could be capped, so I could put it in that pile with the others, because these are virgin Michelin tires on the front, and we could just move ahead with something else. I don't know, like wham, like that. Look at that. We got 4 brand new aluminum wheels. I had the other 2 sandblasted and painted, so now we can put some brand new aluminum wheels on the old girl. She is getting fancy. If you remember way back when, I knocked all the studs out of the steer axle on this truck and replaced them with longer ones because I knew I wanted to put aluminum wheels on. I don't think I did anything with the back because I think they were plenty long enough, because if you can see here, this is how much is sticking out past the lug nut right now, and we just got one more wheel to go. We'll have a steel inner and aluminum outer. Well, that's everything here. 2 coats, and 2 good heavy coats, I hope. I use a hardener in this too, so hopefully it should really hold up well. This is difficult because there's so many moving pieces. It'd been better if I'd taken that all apart, and then I wouldn't have had overlaps where, like here, my primer wasn't dry and didn't realize it until I went to go move it. So it is what it is. Live and learn, I guess. I got really good heavy coats on everything that's on the flat surface with lots of hardener, because this will be sitting in the sun, and you know, it'll bake and fade pretty quick, I'm sure. That's why I like to use a hardener. It's supposed to help it from fading, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a painter. These tires were on the steer axle that we're using in the cab over project, and we're not going to use them because we went with much lower, and they're Michelin, and they are super deep tread in good condition, so we're just going to use these. I like to wash them up before we bring them in too. Always use a tire cage when you're airing up tires for the first time on a wheel, because I have seen this happen many times, where the tire literally blows out past the wheel and hurts somebody. So these are the tires I'm going to put on. I had these in my tire shed. I got a building on the back side of my shop that I keep good used tires in. These are all Michelin recaps on Michelin casings, and they're from 2017 and up. And they've been stored inside with no dry rot. I'm very happy with these. These work just fine for what we're doing. We just got to get them off these wheels now.
Oops. Guess I should have stayed holding this. These tires went pretty well. A lot of times we'll get ones with really thick sidewalls and they're tough, but we got lucky this time.
Probably because these are Michelin. You know which ones they have trouble with sidewalls.
Mm-hmm.
Get over the pond crap. Okay, now I have to go put this in the tire cage, so we'll be right back after these messages.
You need help? Yeah. I can help you. Please.
What a difference just wheels make on a truck. Oh, fantastic. Check out that Milwaukee pack out set. This is for all truck lug nuts, 1-inch drive. This is 33 millimeter. You got 1.5 inch, 1 1/4, 1 1/8, 1 1/16, 1 3/16, and then 13/16 square drive for your bud wheels or stud pilot, whatever you want to call them. If you don't have this gun, man, you are missing out. I use my own air guns. So we got the driver's side wheel on. Now we're starting to work on the bumper. The original bumper to this truck was dented in this area over here, and this bracket was bent. So we just took a pipe wrench and bent it back where I think it goes. I compared it to that spare one I have right there. If I need to, I'll change it out. If not, that'll be fine. I'm going to order up some lug nut covers and center caps for front and rear. I don't normally do that, but, you know, I'd like it for this truck. So this is a bumper we're going to use. This is off another one of my trucks. I had parted one out and needed a bunch of parts for another truck. Some guy needed a cab. I didn't need the cab. I sold the hood, and this bumper is in much better shape than what we had. It's got some scratches in the front from a tow truck when it was towed when the previous owner had it, and kind of a putz with a tow truck. But it's much better than what we had, so now we're going to put that on there. looks alright. Looks pretty level. It'll do. It'll do just fine. So now, what a difference a set of wheels will do to a truck. Imagine what that's going to be like once we get this all cleaned up and buffed up and get the aluminum tanks on and all that stuff. Speaking of that, the next thing I need to find is aluminum tanks. I have those. You see those Freightliners there. These are, I think they're 50 gallon and they're 37 inches by 18 or 19, something like that. 18 by 19. 18 by 18, something like that. I use these, but they don't fill the opening very well. Ideally, I'd like to have about probably a 46-inch tank. And I have lots of aluminum fuel tanks, but I don't have ones that are small enough diameter. All of mine are 26. From the floor up, I have 35 inches. So if you take out, I need an inch of clearance in here anyways, because this body is on bushing so it can move. So if you use a 26-foot or 26-inch tank, that leaves you about 8 inches of clearance, which is like to the top of my foot right there. There's nothing. So I'd like to find some 22s, and that would give me like 13 inches. Right there gives me an inch of clearance. It gives me 13 inches in here. That would be good. And I can take 22 out this way and still have a step on it and be inside that fender. That would be nice. I do have a couple 22-inch, Western Star uses them, but they're big 150-gallon tanks, 125, 150, and I don't want to use them on this because it's a really nice truck. So I'm going to look for them, see if I can find some. I do have some international. They're called D style. They're flat top, flat back, flat bottom, and the front's rounded. They don't fit real well on here either. They're a little short. That's what we did on Project Down and Dirty. We used one of them, and I don't want that look on this one. I'd put step boxes here, but again, step boxes are typically only 30 inches, so we're even shorter. Here's 30 inches, so you know that would look ridiculous. 30 inches right here. So I'm gonna keep looking for tanks, see what we can find. If I can't find the tanks that I want, I'll just have to get more F750s. The original ones that were on here were steel, and they were either 80 or 90 gallon, and it comes clear back into here. And I don't really want that. I'd like it to be even with the edge of the cab. And we're still thinking about putting a sleeper on this thing at some point. So that kind of changes a few things, and I gotta be conscientious of that. I can move my battery box back, that's not a problem. I'll just remake the positive and negative cables and stretch the ECM wiring, it's not a big deal. I can move them anywhere. We got some interior changes coming still. It's a mess because we were doing some work in here, adding the air brakes for the trailer, and I'm not done, so we still have to do trailer electric brakes. We gotta get the controller and the wiring and all that handled in here. We still have to get the separate brake signal to the rear, because in commercial trailers, typically the back lights, you have a turn signal separate from the brake lights, so we have to wire that differently, and I'm working on that. I'd like to get an air ride base over here for you, because this is a pretty short truck. It's gonna ride a little rough, and I want to put the radio that was, remember when we were working on this, the radio started smoking.
Yes.
We were inside working on putting these airlines in, and then we smelled electrical smell, and the radio literally was catching on fire as we were standing right there. It was an aftermarket piece of crap. I hate aftermarket. But we got a lot of wiring to take out and do away with. We're going to clean it all up. I've got another radio to go in it. It's got a forward-facing camera, rear-facing camera, navigation, Bluetooth, all that good stuff. So we'll get that, and we have to get the dump or the air valve for the sliding fifth wheel. Oh yeah. So the fifth wheel's painted, but it's not dry. So we're gonna let that dry for at least 3, 4, 5 days. So when I'm working with getting it lined up to drill, I'm not ruining it. And then we're also thinking about a different transmission. This is a 6-speed direct drive transmission, and I don't know if you guys have ever driven these trucks. This is an FS 6406, I think. So you can look at the gear spread ratio on those transmissions, and the biggest problem with these medium duty trucks is you get a engine that has a limited amount of horsepower. This is 240 horse, and when you're in 6th gear in this truck and you come to any hill where you got a load on and they quit pulling the hill when they see it. It's not like you're really getting a run and start. So then when you go to downshift to 5th gear, now what you've done, because the gap is so big, when you downshift to 5th gear, your RPMs of your engine increase, and you're getting outside that horsepower and torque range, and you're just throwing diesel fuel out the tailpipe because you're not going anywhere. You're barely maintaining speed. And I'd like to put a different transmission in there that would take care of that problem by adding more gears and closing those ratios. So you could actually go from 6th gear, which it would be not 6th gear anymore, but go for your high gear to the next one down and only drop the ratio much closer to where you can actually have more RPMs in that gear to go, where you could actually gain some speed and close all those gaps up. So also these trucks have a hydraulic clutch, and if you're a guy like me who doesn't have very long legs, that clutch pedal sucks because you have to be all the way down to get it to stop on the clutch brake to actually come to a stop, put it in first, reverse, whatever, and it doesn't work very well. The cab's not set up well. So by changing that transmission, I'm looking at possibly changing from a hydraulic clutch pedal to a mechanical clutch pedal. So I'll have to fabricable a push rod, a bell crank, a pivot, another pivot with a bell crank, and so on and so forth. If we get to that, if we get that far, we'll see. I'd like to get this thing running and driving again, but I don't want to make a bunch of changes later after everything is on the side. It's a whole lot easier to work on that transmission when nothing's in the way, because I'm going to have to change the exhaust too. The exhaust comes down next to that transmission. The one I'm thinking about is much wider, so that exhaust is going to have to come back farther before it drops down. Lots of things, lots of stuff going on. Next time we'll pick up on the 5th wheel, hopefully. We'll get it mounted. We'll get the airline ran so that it can actually slide back and forth. Hopefully we're working on the electrical for the lighting, and I have to figure out my location for my extra air valves for the glad hands and 2 7-pin connectors wherever they're going to go. A lot to do, so much more to go. I hope you guys are enjoying this process, this progress, and this project and this stuff that we're doing. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.